I am in a phenomenal mood, ladies and gentlemen. I don't exactly know why, but I have just been so damn excited to go through and talk fantasy football since we got back from the NFL draft. And now we are going to be getting in a Dynasty startup. I've heard a lot of people asking us to do this. I mean, obviously, so much has changed with these landing spots, with guys like Kenneth Walker plummeting down, Swift going to Philadelphia, Bijan actually finding himself a landing spot. So going to be super excited to go through and jump into this startup draft. Fill this startup draft with everybody from flogfantasy.com in our Discord. I grabbed pick 9 here, which we'll be excited about. I mean, in terms of us possibly targeting one guy that I really want to talk about. But anyway, real quick, I do need to give a shout out. I actually did not announce this 2 days ago when Underdog had a special on their basketball lines. Now, I know I don't really talk about basketball, and by no means am I a basketball expert, but I know 99% of y'all are already drafting on Underdog. Head over to the app right now, and you have a free bet with Jaylen Brown. I mean, I really never talk about it on this channel anymore, but if you have a free bet that's sitting out there, you better go ahead and take it. And of course, if you want to get in a Underdog best ball draft, they just launched a $15 million best ball tournament. I've been drafting on the main fantasy football channel teams there every single day. If you want to get in a draft with us on that live stream, or you want to have access to that free bet, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description. I'll also throw it in the live chat, and we'll also put it in the comment section. But real quick, we actually have some interesting developments here. We have both Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase going at pick 5 and 6. I mean, usually you're not going to see that happening. Usually you have, Herbert confidently going before those guys, as well as Trevor Lawrence. So those were two wide receivers that we would have taken, obviously, if they fell to 9. But maybe instead, we're actually going to get Lawrence. No, Lawrence goes. So instead, we are going to pivot over to the guy I really wanted to take. The reason I ended up grabbing pick 9, Bijan Robinson. I mean, if we are looking at Bijan here, right now in those Underdog drafts, you are literally seeing him be drafted as the running back 2 in redraft leagues. The only guy going ahead of Bijan Robinson in 2023 drafts currently is Christian McCaffrey at the running back position. If we are able to get that profile at 21 years old, I understand, yes, it's going to be very difficult for us to find quarterbacks later on. I am completely fine swinging for the fences here, taking Bijan Robinson. And yes, I would rather have the 101 over Justin Fields. And funny enough, I actually have Justin Fields in a couple Dynasty leagues. And before the draft, we went through and in every single league that I had Justin Fields, I believe it was 3 of them, I went through and I offered Fields for the 101. And we didn't have any takers though, sadly. Now, Lamb, Richardson, both off the board, 201 and 202. So let's see what we have. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up flogfantasy.com so we have our rankings. Okay, so you have Bryce Young going off. I am actually probably going to go ahead and take Kyler Murray. This is something that I'll have to update on flogfantasy.com, but if you are looking at Kyler, in my mind, he is a big-time winner this offseason, right? And that with Kyler Murray, not only are you getting the best offensive tackle in the draft going to Arizona, but Arizona is also picking up a significant piece with the Houston Texans 2024 first, and now it looks like Hopkins may be staying. So I actually really like taking Kyler here. I think you can make an argument for Kyler Murray over a couple of these other QBs. Obviously, the primary issue is he's going to miss the beginning of this next season. We don't really know what the health is for 2023 in particular, but the long-term play, I'm completely fine with Kyler Murray there. But Colin says, thoughts on Kyler Murray's rumors to Atlanta? I'm not going to lie to you, my man. I did not hear this. If Kyler Murray was sent to the Atlanta Falcons, I think on paper, it could make a lot of sense, right? Salvatore says, I like Dak over Kyler. I can't get behind that. Oh my gosh. People are saying Kyler's fallen far, but let me see if Kyler Murray and this Falcons rumor has any validity. So NFL Rumors tweeted out, I mean, of course, it's freaking NFL Rumors. Who the hell knows? The Atlanta Falcons and Arizona Cardinals discussed a Kyler Murray trade at the NFL draft. I would say that that is unlikely to happen, but if we were getting on our NFL general manager hat, if we were trying to play Madden here, right? I mean, it would make a lot of sense, especially if Kyler Murray wasn't injured. You send him to Atlanta where the Atlanta Falcons could possibly compete this next year. I mean, you have Drake London going into year 2. You have Kyle Pitts. You have now Bijan Robinson coming into this offense. I mean, this team is respectable elsewhere. The main issue that the Atlanta Falcons have, even if their division is complete trash, is they just have really no quarterback you can be excited about. So if you were to send Kyler Murray over to the Atlanta Falcons, I think it could, if Kyler Murray was healthy, turn Atlanta into the divisional winner there and possibly have, I don't want to say Super Bowl aspirations, but aspirations to win a playoff game or two. Now, with that being said, I think it's probably unlikely. It does make a lot of sense for the Arizona Cardinals as well, depending on what they would get in return, considering the fact that the Cardinals, I mean, at this point, look like they could earn the first and second overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft and come away with Caleb Williams. So, yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting. Let me know. Can everybody in the chat, we have almost 150 people here, spam the chat with the percentage chance they think that there is Kyler Murray's traded to the Atlanta Falcons. Do you think it's a 10% chance? Do you think it's a 20% chance? Let me know what you're thinking. I'll give you my answer afterwards. I don't want my answer to skew the responses in the chat, though. Okay. So we have Tua going at the 305. Kyle Pitts goes at the 306. 0%, 3%. The Pound says 100% Brady's a Falcon come playoff time. Oh, that'd be hilarious. 0, 5%, 0%. I would honestly probably say Phillip is probably right here with about 3%. Like, it's a fun, long shot thing to talk about, but I don't know. Brian says he thinks Lance to Atlanta makes a lot of sense. I would as well if the Atlanta Falcons were willing to give up both their own 2024 first and the Houston Texans 2024 first, plus probably like Kyle Pitts to get Trey Lance when Trey Lance is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, you really have to pay up to get him. Obviously, I'm joking, but don't be surprised when you take Trey Lance in this draft. But keep in mind, this is everybody from flockfantasy.com, so maybe someone snipes this on him. Okay, so Kenneth Walker goes there at the 308. In my mind, honestly, I hate it. Like, yes, I was completely fine drafting Kenneth Walker at the 2-3 turn in Dynasty startups previous to the Zach Charbonnet selection, but the Seattle Seahawks going through and taking a running back in round 2, I mean, in my mind, all of a sudden, I'm just not interested in Kenneth Walker at all. I'll be very excited to be able to go through and grab Chris Olave here, a wide receiver that should be hyper productive this next year, as well as in the long term. Yeah, I'm really excited. Conlon says, so is there no faith in Desmond Ridder in Atlanta then? I will say, in underdog drafts, I've been drafting a lot of 18th round Desmond Ridder. Cameron coming out. Thank you so much, my man. Says 10-team Superflex roster crunch. What to do with Zach Wilson, Irv Smith Jr., and Mike Gesicki. We have Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, Trevor Lawrence, Josh Allen, Lance, and Love. Don't really want to drop them, but we don't have room. Okay, so I would say if we're looking at trying to keep these guys on the roster, you're really not going to be able to trade these players for anything. Like, go try to sell Irv Smith Jr., Mike Gesicki for a 3rd round pick. It's really not happening. I mean, if you wanted to keep these guys on the roster, what you'd probably look to do is probably look to maybe package together like Jordan Love as well as Evan Ingram and see if we can get a tight end upgrade that way, a quarterback upgrade that way. That way we can be a little more creative in how we open up a roster spot without having to go through and trade one of these players in particular. Now, if we're not able to make that 2-for-1 deal where we're able to open up the roster spot for these guys naturally, and we were to have to cut these players, my first cut on this list would actually be Mike Gesicki, specifically in a super flex format. I'd probably just hold on to, and I don't love saying it, but I'd probably just hold on to Zach Wilson a little bit longer. We're going to go ahead. We are going to take Devonta Smith at the 404. I mean, I think that you're going to get some solid production this next year. Obviously, you're not as excited as the production you would get from Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, but I think the production this season will be respectable, and also you have the long-term value. Like, there's no chance that Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams can increase their dynasty value going into next offseason, where if Devonta Smith continues to take strides forward, hell, it could be a possibility. But yeah, if I had to choose what to do with these guys, like I said, if you want to keep them, you're going to go through, you're going to try to make 2-for-1 deals, 3-for-1 deals in other spots of your roster, and if you had to cut these players, I would go Gesicki the first cut, Irv Smith Jr. the second cut, Zach Wilson the last cut. Salvatore says Olave snap choice. Yeah, I mean, in my mind, Chris Olave at the 309. Let me know if y'all think I'm wrong there. I feel like it's a pick that we just kind of have to go through and make. Let me pull up my rankings on Underdog, I mean, not on Underdog, on flogfantasy.com, and I can tell you exactly where I have Chris Olave in comparison to some of these other names. Okay. Sorry, just give me a second. I should have set it up where I could pull up the rankings without having to get rid of the draft board on the computer. But sadly, I was too dumb to do that. So instead, we're going to have to pull up the rankings on the phone. Okay, so if you're looking at where I personally have Chris Olave, now these aren't the average across all the experts on Flog Fantasy. This is just my set of rankings here. I am going to be extremely high on Chris Olave. Love the man as a prospect. Love what we saw year one as well. I have Chris Olave at 24. To be honest with you, people on flogfantasy.com have him even higher than I do. If you're looking at the average expert ranking on flogfantasy.com for Chris Olave, that's going to be 20. So yeah, I mean, I think that we're getting a phenomenal value with Chris Olave at the 309. If we're going to look at other players that were in consideration for me, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba, T. Higgins would have also been in consideration. So like I said, we have Chris Olave at 24. I have T. Higgins at 26. Devonta Smith at 27 and Jackson Smith and Jigba at 29 in our rankings. And I think Drake London at 30, but we just put our phone down. Now, Addison, Johnston, both off the board here. I mean, I was hoping these wide receivers were going to make it back. I'm not going to be crying that we don't get these guys at the end of the fifth. I mean, I don't want to say who you still have on the board, but we still have some exciting options on the board. The Dragon Rider says Swift or, oh my gosh. Please go look at our updated running back rankings and scores video. The reason I made that is because I really wanted to outline the expected hit rate that you're going to have with these running backs that went on late day 2, early day 3 of the NFL draft. If you look at our historical running back prospect model, which going back to 2014 has been significantly more predictive of fantasy football success than Dynasty rookie ADP. And we've proven that in depth on the site. We've proven that in depth with research books. We've proven that in depth in a few videos on the channel as well. But Devin Achane, if you look at his range of outcomes, most likely he's not working out. Like the probability for him to be able to come out and turn into a top 15 running back on a points per game basis, extremely, extremely slim. Okay. Now Russell Wilson, 507. What are we doing here? I'm a little nervous, ladies and gentlemen. I was really hoping we were going to get Najee on the way back around or Christian Watson. Ramadre goes. I should have just had Flock Fantasy pulled up on the computer. Oh, dear God. How much of a reach is this? I'm not going to say who else we're going to go look at. I'm going to take Cousins here. I am not excited about it. I think if we're looking at a lot of these other running backs and wide receivers, Cousins is, I don't know. A lot of these running backs, wide receivers, they're about the same. I feel like at the quarterback position, we're about to see a teardrop. Like Levis can no longer be in play for us here when he falls to the second round. Judy goes to the 5'11". Let me know what you think of the Cousins selection. I mean, if I'm looking at my rankings on the site, I have Cousins at 67, but the site average for everybody with Kirk Cousins is 79. So Judy, Devontae Adams goes. The Kirk Cousins selection is probably not a good one. Charbonnet is a much better player, my friend. Much better player. HN weighs less than 180 pounds. Like, what the hell are we doing? I mean, less than 190 pounds. What the hell are we doing here? I'm not getting into a running back with that size profile. Okay. The thing is, if we were to pass on Kenny Pickett, do we get either Geno Smith or Jordan Love making it back to us? Probably not. Probably not. And Brennan says, couldn't he put on weight? So a big thing is, and we talk about this every offseason, because you will hear people when a player comes in with a massive red flag, right? Say, oh, okay, well, this player is too small, or maybe this player is too slow. Then you immediately have everybody going and saying, well, Mason, you don't really know what you're talking about. I mean, he is going to gain weight. Well, the thing is, when you do historical analysis of how much, say, running backs weigh at the combine and how that leads to fantasy football success, we are comparing apples to apples there, right? So say that we look at all running backs, such as Devin Achane, who weighed less than 190 pounds at the NFL Combine. All of those players could have gained weight after the NFL Combine. Every single one. They probably did as well. So if you weigh 185 at the Combine or whatever the hell it is, maybe by the time you get to the season, you weigh 195. But if that's the same for like all running backs that went to the Combine at 185, we're comparing apples to apples there. So, I mean, if all those guys at the Combine that weighed that light never turned into anything for a fantasy football perspective, why all of a sudden is it going to be any different here? Like, all those other guys could have gained weight as well. So in my mind, it's not really a good argument in that, okay, they're just going to go through and they're going to be able to put on weight. I don't know. I'm not going to buy into it. But I honestly don't love what we do here at the 5-9 turn. I mean, it will come down to where these other quarterbacks go off the board. If we end up getting Geno Smith or Jordan Love making it back to us at the 709, then we can safely say that our Kirk Cousins and Kenny Pickett selections were horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Let's just see where the rest of this draft falls. We have Treylon Burks going ahead of Zay Flowers here. I mean, I'm not necessarily a massive Zay Flowers fan, but if we were to go through and say where he should go in startup drafts, I feel like this is a good price point you're getting on Zay Flowers. I mean, I think a lot of people who talk about Zay Flowers being in the same tier as Johnston, Addison, I think that they are crazy. I think Zay Flowers is clearly the wide receiver 4 in this class, and I couldn't consider going with him over Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison. But, I mean, hell, here at the 6-7 turn, I think it's a completely fine selection. Okay. Touchdown says only Zay Flowers is overrated. I mean, I agree with you. I think if people are taking Zay Flowers in the same range as Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison, I would 100% agree. He's overrated there. However, if instead you're going to be getting him, say, round 6, round 7, I'm completely fine taking, like, if you really like Zay Flowers and you want to take him over DJ Moore, you do you. I'm not going to argue with you on it. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, Geno Smith and Jordan Love maybe would have made it back to us, and it looks like our selections of Kirk Cousins and Kenny Pickett were just really bad there, but it is what it is. You live and you learn. You're able to watch live streams like this and see me make mistakes so you don't have to do the same. Geno Smith goes. So the thing is, if I was playing in a Dynasty League, who would I rather have? Would I rather have Jordan Love or Zach Charbonnet? Would I rather have Jordan Love or Dalton Kincaid? Would I rather have Jordan Love or Joe Mixon? Jordan Love or Hollywood Brown? Jordan Love or Pat Frymuth? In my mind, it's Jordan Love, and it's not even remotely close. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to take another quarterback here. I don't necessarily know how this will work out. What will be nice is, I mean, hell, we definitely have 3 starting quarterbacks regardless of the Kyler Murray injury going into the season. Obviously, the game plan at this point would be to go through and sell one of these guys. But I really can't be taking like DeAndre Hopkins over Jordan Love in a 12-team Superflex league. I really couldn't. Okay, so now Nick says, what could you get for the 109? Okay, so if you're looking at the 109, it's Zay Flowers in almost every league. So if you're looking at where Zay Flowers goes in the same range as Treylon Burks, Dameon Pierce, DJ Moore, Derrick Henry, Terry McLaurin, John Dotson. That'd be about the range that you'd have. Okay. Oh, yeah. Colin, I love, if we get Josh Downs round 15 or after, I think it's phenomenal value. Derek Carr goes 7-11. Obviously, at this point, we're really hoping that quarterbacks continue to go. Okay, now Pat Frymuth goes 7-12. I think if we would have known that we would have this Jordan Love value falling to us this far, I just would have passed on Kirk Cousins in favor of Jerry Jeudy. I think that would have been the play here. I think we would have been really excited about having, say, Kyler Pickett, Love at quarterback, Olave, Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver, with Bijan Robinson holding it down for us at running back. If we would have known Jordan Love would have fallen this far, I think that would have been the correct play. Okay. Now, Frymuth, Rachaad White off the board here at the 7-8 turn. Obviously, Rachaad White, a big-time winner of the NFL draft. Zach Charbonnet goes. I honestly maybe would have taken Zach Charbonnet even with the pretty nasty landing spot. But now let's go through and let's find our next guy. I think specifically because we have Kyler Murray here, it makes a lot of sense for us to just go through and take Hollywood Brown. Not looking great for Hollywood considering the fact that Hopkins may now stay in Arizona. But, I mean, I'm fine with the value in general. I think you can make an argument for a few different names here. I don't want to bring them up exactly because they're further down ADP, so I'm hoping that they make it back to us at the 909. But I think if we're just talking from a roster construction standpoint, if we already made that bet on Kyler Murray, might as well go ahead and double down on that bet and pick up Hollywood Brown. That way, if we're right on Kyler at the 204, we can also be right with Hollywood. Okay. Justin says, I think Brands 99 is owning this draft. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see where they're at. Yeah, they're at the very end. Quarterback, Watson, Daniel Jones. Wide receiver, Lamb, JSN, Devontae Adams. Running back, Pollard, Rashad. Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal team. I would rather have their team than ours. I mean, our quarterback room is probably a little better. Their wide receiver room's better. I don't know. I think it's comparable. Levis goes 809. Y'all know I was screaming whenever Will Levis projected by pretty much everybody where he was minus 500 to be selected in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft. I was screaming that he was an absurd value with where he was going in these dynasty startups. And I am going to order a Will Levis jersey. I mean, we got to talk to him on the red carpet. The man was extremely nice to us. So I definitely still want to be rooting for this guy. But I mean, to be fair, I think that you just have to lower your expectations with him going round 2. You're just not guaranteed to have X amount of seasons starting. Now, Mac Jones goes 8-12. Let's see what else they decide to do. So the player that I would have possibly considered not named Hollywood Brown is still on the board and can still make it back to us. If he does go, I'll let you know who it is. Cam Akers goes 901. Okay, Isaiah Pacheco goes 902. Isaiah Pacheco was someone I was really hoping that we were going to get on the way back around. I mean, with Pacheco, he wins the NFL draft. Nobody goes to Kansas City. Now, of course, he'll still need to dodge Leonard Fournette. He'll still need to dodge Ezekiel Elliott. But, I mean, as it stands, the man had a very impressive end to his rookie season. The Chiefs coaching staff clearly believed in him and that he was being heavily involved in the playoffs when everything mattered. And then they don't go out there and sign anyone in free agency. They don't go ahead and draft anyone in the NFL draft. So as it stands currently, love what you have with Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, obviously, still have to be a little worried about one of those dusty veterans coming in. Okay. Let's see what else we have. So quarterback, Stafford, Ritter, probably the best guys available. Running back, Sanders, Condre Miller, Montgomery, probably the best guys available. Wide receiver, Bateman. I don't know. Wide receiver's a little ugly. Tight ends, David Njoku, Evan Ingram, Michael Mayer, depending on how you rank those guys. Yeah, so we are in a little bit of a dead zone here. Going to be difficult to find someone we're truly excited about. Mike Williams, 908. Yeah, after looking at what's on the board for us now, I think we can just safely say that Isaiah Pacheco selection was so damn good. I think we may end up going Miles Sanders here. I mean, with Sanders, drafted in 2019 compared to Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara in 2017. Miles Sanders, you see most likely a vastly improved offense in Carolina with Bryce Young going over. You don't really have another running back there outside of Chuba Hubbard, and I don't think we assume Hubbard's going to be anything this next year. I'm not as concerned as what you'd be with like a team like Kansas City, where Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott are going to want to go there. I doubt Leonard Fournette is going to have any intention of going to a team like the Carolina Panthers. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to take Miles Sanders at the 909 as our second RB. Difficult to be too excited about it. I'm just fine with it. Gabriel says, Miles Sanders not bad as your running back too. Yeah. I mean, with Sanders, we're kind of drafting him with the expectations that he's probably a running back 2 in fantasy this year and next year, right? I mean, I'm not expecting Miles Sanders to be anything at all in 2025. He's assigned what is essentially a 2-year deal for the Carolina Panthers. But if we get 2 years of top 20-ish running back production from Sanders here, and when we're getting him in the same range as Michael Mayer, Josh Downs, I'm going to be completely fine with that level of production. Touchdowns only asking, how many touchdowns will Miles Sanders get this year? And my friend, you are the touchdowns expert, I'm assuming, so you're going to have to answer that one for me. Okay, Desmond Ridder, Keenan Allen off the board. Don't hate the Desmond Ridder selection at all. I had to move Desmond Ridder up our rankings after the NFL draft. I mean, I was kind of fooling myself saying, okay, Atlanta's definitely going to do something. Oh, definitely not going to go into this season with Desmond Ridder as their starter. I don't know what I thought they were going to do. Like every single person on the planet was saying that they weren't interested in a quarterback at 8. So God knows what I was thinking. But yeah, I mean, now that he's made it past free agency and past the draft, I think you have to give Desmond Ridder his props. Even if the offense is not going to want to throw the ball, still he has phenomenal weapons. Okay, Rice off the board. Let's go ahead and let's scroll through. We're probably going to take someone else that will forever be attached to Miles Sanders. We're going to go ahead and we will take David Montgomery, who also signs essentially what is a 2-year deal if you're going to look at the guaranteed money with the Detroit Lions, running behind an elite offensive line. I mean, both these guys drafted in 2019. Of course, they'll always be attached because everybody knew Josh Jacobs running back 1. Then after that, everybody in that rookie draft was arguing Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery. I was on the Miles Sanders side of that fence. Honestly, I think that we are probably wrong. Like if I were to go through and with our refined prospect evaluation process, I probably would have rather had Montgomery way back when. But honestly, that's just, it just doesn't matter anymore at this point. Then Aaron Jones, a few years older than David Montgomery. Like David Montgomery, currently 25. You're looking at Aaron Jones, currently 28. So, I mean, I think that Jones is probably more productive this next season, but I don't really have any faith in what we're going to be getting from Aaron Jones in 2024. Luke says, like that pick, Montgomery will be the goal line guy for the Lions. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're just really hoping that David Montgomery would be able to go through and play the Jamal Williams role and have the same effect Jamal Williams had last year. CJ says, is this the lightest wide receiver room in history? Yeah, so we have both Hollywood Brown and Devonta Smith, who obviously are extremely light. I thought Chris Olave, how much does Chris Olave weigh? Let me pull this up. Gabe Davis, Matthew Stafford. Love the Stafford value. Like, to be honest with you, I would have much preferred having Matthew Stafford round 10 than Kirk Cousins round 5. Olave weighs 185. So Olave on the lighter side as well. Nick says, would you send the 109 for Miles Sanders? Probably not, my friend. Like, if you're looking at the 9th rookie off the board in this startup, you have Zay Flowers going at the 6'11". We take Miles Sanders at the 909. I mean, if you're playing in a 1 quarterback format, then maybe, just because the 109 is going to be significantly worse than it would be in a super flex league. But yeah, probably not. Elijah Moore. AS coming out with a donation. Thank you so much, my man says. Gave Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders, and a future first for Jackson Smith and Jigba, Elijah Mitchell, and then a couple meaningless picks. I really like it, my friend. I mean, if we're going to be looking at Dalvin Cook, pretty much nothing. I don't even know what team's going to be on this next year. If you're looking at Jackson Smith and Jigba, this is a wide receiver you can have as a cornerstone asset of your dynasty team. The only thing I'd be hesitant about is if that 2024 first-round pick looks like it's going to be an early one, then I would be a little bit worried. But Roshan, Kondre Miller's already off the board. Okay, so are we pivoting over to tight end now? Has Njoku gone? No. Okay. We're going to go ahead. We'll reach according to ADP, but honestly, I think David Njoku is a better player than Dalton Schultz. We'll take David Njoku here at the end of the 11th. I mean, Njoku drafted way back in 2017, but he was the youngest tight end in that entire draft class, drafted at 20 years old out of Florida. So even if he was drafted way back in 2017, the same class that we just looked at, Aaron Jones, who's already 28. I mean, David Njoku, only 26. We know tight ends, especially Njoku, is an elite level athlete coming out of school, but at the same time, wasn't polished by any means. They take some time to develop. I mean, I'm completely fine going in on David Njoku this year when they don't really have too many weapons, and at the same time, should be a pretty respectable passing offense with Deshaun Watson. Okay. James Conner. Conlon says, do we know the running back one in Philly yet? I would bet almost any amount of money that it is DeAndre Swift, but I'm not like super big on DeAndre Swift by any means. I would say Swift at the 5'10" is too early for me. I'm not taking Swift at the 5'10", but if we had to make a bet on who the running back one is in Philadelphia, you have to make that bet on Swift. Khalil Herbert off the board. I really don't have much interest in Herbert, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think we may just double tap the tight end position. We'll go ahead. We'll take a little bit of a younger option here with Greg Dulcich. Maybe if we decided to pass on David Njoku in the 11th round and went with a different player, then we could have gone with a veteran tight end, whether that's Darren Waller, whether that is Evan Ingram. I feel like, though, when we already have the veteran tight end there with Njoku, might as well go with maybe a little bit more of a younger option. That way we can stagger our production just a bit here. Maybe have a little more upside, because if we go through and say take Evan Ingram or take Darren Waller here, I feel like we're kind of doing the same thing as what we just accomplished with the David Njoku selection at the end of the 11th. Touchdowns only says, who is Jerome Ford? He was a running back that went to Alabama, could not play because Alabama had Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Damian Harris in that same backfield. So he transferred over to, I believe, Cincinnati, went day 3 in last year's NFL draft to the Cleveland Browns. Some people are excited about Jerome Ford as like a last round pick in underdog drafts right now, considering the fact that, I mean, hell, you don't really have anybody else in Cleveland outside of Nick Chubb, of course. And historically, this is a team that's wanted to go through and use multiple running backs. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Jerome Ford's going to be much of an impact player at all. Now, let's go ahead and let's show off this draft board for anybody who's just now coming in. Don't love what we did with this draft. I will say I stand strongly by the first 4 rounds. I stand strongly by the last 4 rounds. I think if we made a mistake with this draft where it was the Kirk Cousins selection at the 509. Really didn't know what to do there. Really, it was kind of scrambling. Our targets, such as Hawkinson, Najee, Christian Watson, all went off the board. If I were to get back in a time machine, what I would have preferred doing is I would have probably taken Jerry Jeudy there in the middle of the 5th and then Matthew Stafford in the 10th. It's probably what I would have done. I think if we made a mistake in this draft, it was definitely the Kirk Cousins selection. Okay. Move this down. Jacoby Myers goes 1302. Sam Laporta 1301. Isaiah Likely 1303. Yeah, so I think we timed our tight ends perfectly, right? Because if you're looking at Likely and Njoku going this close together, or Likely and Dulcich going this close together, same thing with, I mean, Sam Laporta. I would much, much prefer our tight ends tiers ahead of those other guys. So, and I'll say also, I understand Darren Waller is much, much older at this point, but in my mind, you still have to be taking Darren Waller over Isaiah Likely. Okay. Sam Howell goes, I was going to be put in a very tough position if we had the ability to draft Sam Howell here. I was like, okay, well, who else has any type of upside at all? We're just going to go ahead. We're going to grab Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, with Wan'Dale, loved him as a prospect coming out of Kentucky. I mean, this is a wide receiver that Showed early on in his collegiate career that he could be that dual threat guy, run the ball a lot, just an overall offensive weapon. His junior season, he was used in an entirely different fashion where he was just strictly that receiving option who dominated with a monstrous amount of volume. I mean, he checks a lot of the boxes that we looked for. He broke out as a freshman, dominated as a sophomore, declared as a junior, goes round 2 of the NFL draft. Like Wan'Dale Robinson, I really like as a player. Obviously, the issue is the situation that he's in. And on top of this, the torn ACL he's coming off of. Luke says, I think Waller's is still this far down. I 100% agree with you. I think that Darren Waller is much better than a lot of those guys that he goes ahead of. Okay, Tillman. Justin Amy says, what about Kyler Murray makes you like him right now? This is a quarterback that was going as a top 5 guy in startups last offseason. This is a quarterback where I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be in a much better situation this next year than we initially thought, given the trade that they make with the Houston Texans. They still get the best offensive tackle in the entire draft, and they possibly are looking at the number 1 and number 2 overall picks next year to surround Kyler with a crap ton of talent. He has the guaranteed contract. He has rushing upside as well. Okay. I don't know if Kyler's a good real-life quarterback, but I think he's a good fantasy quarterback, especially at this price point. Do we just swing for someone? We'll take a swing on Sky Moore. Who the hell knows? Another wide receiver going into year 2. At least he's attached to Patrick Mahomes. He also had a pretty damn good prospect profile. I initially gave him a bunch of crap because Dwayne Eskridge was more productive on the same roster, and then we eventually had to come back around. Honestly, we probably should have kept our initial take, but I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, this is the draft board. Please let me know what y'all think about this startup draft. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Like I said, I definitely would change a few things, specifically rounds 5, 6, and 7. But thank you again for everything, ladies and gentlemen. And real quick, I know 99% of y'all are already drafting on Underdog. Make sure you go ahead and take advantage of the free bet that they are going to have this Friday. And if you aren't drafting on Underdog yet, they just launched their $15 million Best Ball Mania contest. We're drafting on there every single day on the live stream of the main fantasy football channel. If you want to get in a draft with us, promo code FLOCK, 100% a positive match. Plus, you can go take advantage of that free bet. But thank you so much. Really appreciate y'all. Really hope that you have a great day and really hope that we get to see you in the live stream later today.